All right, and welcome to another exciting networks class. Today we're going to review for the midterm, which is due in 7 days. What I would like to do is set up some ground rules for this midterm. The first is that if you have questions, I will answer them. I will answer any question that you have. After this class is over, if you have questions, it's not exactly fair for me to just answer you individually. So what I would do is I would take your question, and if it's giving away the test, I might not answer it, or if I do answer it, it will be for everybody's benefit, so I will CC everyone. So for those individuals that have questions, I'm perfectly happy to open the floor to questions and answer anything that I can. Otherwise, I'm going to launch into a little bit of the homework review to see what happened last time people submitted some homework assignments. And there were a couple of questions I think people had prior to this class, and it might have been Alfredo. Did you have a question about JSoup?
Yeah, so you have some examples.
You wanted examples of JSoup, and I sent you an email.
Yes.
And then I took those URLs which I sent you, and I put them up on Google Docs. Oh, I remember where you can get these things. Yeah, this was a Sunday. I remember now. We had an issue with you with your ability to view the lectures, and apparently, let me just sort of run through this problem we had, because we had a little head-to-head discussion. I would say okay. Alfredo said to me, I can't get the lectures. Where are the lectures? I said, well, Alfredo, they're where they always were. What do you mean you can't get them? You mean they don't show, they don't play? It's just blank. So this whole area in here is what's called dynamic HTML content, and it is created by a Google Doc. And Alfredo could not see it. And apparently, it was because you weren't logged in. And I said, well, why should anybody have to be logged in to see publicly available links? That's not right. And then I found out there were a lot of people who had these problems, but apparently it only occurs when you already have a Google account and then get logged out for some reason. So I'll just open the floor. Has anyone had any troubles viewing these links? No? Alfredo, you're the only one. So I looked at that. I said, it's working fine here, but it wasn't working for him. And finally, I logged into his system remotely. So then what I did, he asked me for, Alfredo he asked me for a bunch of examples on JSoup. So what I did was I just said, okay, here are JSoup examples, and I labeled them as such, and then I said, here's HTML to plain text, here's somebody else's examples for getting links, here's an example for doing something else, parsing a table, here's an example for doing HTML to plain text, here's an example for downloading all the images from a website. Let me tell you something. What I don't know about JSoup is practically everything. I use HTML Editor Kit because it's been around like forever, long before JSoup, and I got kind of used to it. And then someone said, hey, JSoup. And I said, oh, here's a new framework I don't know. Yet another framework. So then I said, well, maybe JSoup is nice because it lets you do a query off of what's called a DOM document. See, HTML editor is to HTML what SAX is to XML, and JSoup is to HTML what DOM is to HTML. And so what I mean by that is when you build a SAX parser for XML, what you're doing is you're building an inversion of control framework that requires that you supply processing for tags as they're encountered. And so what that means to me, the programmer, is I look for an end tag, and then I build a dispatch. And dispatch says, well, if you ended a title tag, then do the title thing. And if you ended a table data tag, then do the table data thing. Whereas if I have a DOM-based JSoup document, that's a document object model. And that enables me to do queries right out of memory after the document has been parsed. So this can result in a multi-pass interrogation of the document. So I can go back to the document while it's in memory, assuming I can keep the document in memory, and then proceed to ask a series of different questions. So therein lies, I think, the trade-off. You're trading off space for time. That's classic computer science trade-off. Because in SACS, you're just parsing as you go, and you can do the whole thing in one pass. Whereas with DOM, document object model, you've got to take the whole thing, build a giant parse tree out of your document, and then you can ask any questions you want, assuming you could store the whole document in the parse tree. So DOM, that kind of relates to one of the more advanced chapters that come after the SACS chapter. I think it's chapter 33. Whereas you know, the HTML editor kit, that relates more to like the way SACS is parsed, and also to chapter 18, which is about swing and shows you an HTML editor which actually can decode the HTML and display it. That is to say, it can render HTML. So the HTML editor is there because you can take the HTML editor and use it to build your own browser. And I think we might have had an example of that, but I'm not sure. I don't know if you guys remember this, but there is a way to take HTML and render it directly. Although it may be somewhat tangential to our talk, it also describes why the HTML editor is such a compelling and powerful thing. So when you're thinking in terms of, you know, maybe I've got it down in book examples under chapter 18. There should be an HTML editor in here somewhere. Here it is, HTML viewer. Let's see if we can make this work. So I'm going to quickly look through it. Yeah, you can go to the editor and you can set the content type as text stroke HTML. And what that will do is it will force the editor to interpret the HTML that it is displaying as HTML and then proceed to render it onto your screen. This enables you to build your own browser in relatively simple order. So does it work? I don't know. I should check these things before I do code analysis. This is the middle. I was in the middle of a. Is there something else in here that is? I was creating little bugs for myself. Silly little bugs. There we go. Now let's see if we can get a HTML editor to run. So now he wants some HTML file. I don't have any HTML files. What am I going to do? I don't have any HTML files. Well, I suppose I could snarf one, download it, and then open it. Or I could modify the program to take a URL. Yeah, you can kind of see what's going on here. He says get file is one big string. So he's asking me to find a little HTML. So what can I do? Can I save this as HTML? I don't even know. It says CR320 HTML. Let's do that. And then what we'll do is we'll run the program again. I think it said main HTML as well, so I'm not sure what's in there. I'm guessing that's in the C:\lion directory. So let's go to C:\lion and see if there's like some HTML hanging out somewheres. And, well, here's something. I don't know what that is. Oh, hey, look at that. So it just rendered the HTML from a quarterly report for Fidelity. And that's being rendered in Java. Slick, right? So that's a Java frame using the HTML editor kit. Now the HTML editor kit could have been used not just to render, but it could be used as I use it, which is to extract data. You can't do this with JSoup, right? Not only that, but you can make it so that the links are live, and that way if you click on links, it'll take you to new HTML content. In other words, you can build a fully functional browser. Moreover, because the HTML editor kit is capable of rendering text with different format tags, you can set text to be text/plain. It'll just render plain text. Or you can set text to be text/RTF. So it can interpret Microsoft Word documents and render them onto the screen inside of your Java program. Sweet. Not only that, you can convert. You can convert from HTML to RTF all within the HTML editor kit. It slices, it dices, it renders, it's a browser, it's an interpreter. It's like Razzles is a gum, Razzles is a candy. Yes, sir.
So then what are the benefits of JSoup?
Okay, so JSoup allows you to do a DOM-based interrogation of the document, which is considered to be a good thing to do if you can internalize the parse tree for the entire document all at once, which means you need enough memory to deal with it. But keep in mind, this form NQ, which I've got right in here and is being rendered to the screen, is also being put into memory. So now I'm not able to interrogate the HTML editor kit the same way that I can interrogate the DOM tree inside of JSoup, but it is using quite a bit of memory in here just to render, and it took a while to render it. But having said that, how much time would it have taken to render with Chrome? Can't I do an open in Chrome? I can open a file in Chrome, right? So Lion, let's open main and see how long that takes. Oh, see, Chrome. Chrome is so fast. So Chrome rendered it so quickly. Meanwhile, the HTML editor kit was way slow in comparison. Yeah.
Could you remind me what had to change in that instead to get a file, can I use the URL in the example that we had?
You mean you don't want to open a file, you want to open a URL that's live?
Right.
Well, it will work with an arbitrary string. So if you can take a URL and get it as one big string, then you can take that string and pass it into the setText invocation, and it will proceed to do the rendering. So, not to put too fine a point on it, let's assume, for the sake of argument, that you went to URL utils, right? And then you said get as, how does one do this? Get as one big string, isn't that right? Maybe it's URL util. Get as, I forgot how to do this. I'm sorry. URL util. This is not my URL util. I think this is what I want. URL utils dot. Now there should be a way to get one big, there it is, not get as, it's get one big URL string. So get one big URL string, what that does, this is kind of a brute force thing. If you say get as one big URL string and you put in something like a URL, new URL, make up a URL, http://www.fairfield.edu, okay, and end quote end paren sem. Well, he's inserting semicolons inappropriately in my view. Now he says Alt Enter. We'll get a net URL, and now I have to throw a malformed URL exception in the method, and then I have to throw an IO exception at runtime in the method, and now that's going to give me a string s equals, and now what's his problem? Oh, I can't use minus, it has to be equals. Equals. There we go. Typo. So that's it. Let's examine this for just a moment. I took a URL, which hopefully I can retrieve from in here, and then I passed it to get one big URL string. Get one big URL string is going to suck down the web page, convert it into one big string, and then allow me to do the processing. And I could have done the processing gradually, but I figure it's pay now or pay later. I'm a networks guy, so I'm going to look at this in a different way. This is a stop and wait protocol. I'm going to make a request for a web page, then I'm going to stop and wait for the web server to respond to me. So if it hangs and waits, I might time out, and that could take a while. And the right-hand side of the equal sign will not return until the whole web page comes down. So if it's a big web page, this is going to, cause me to suck on air for a while. But presumably it's local, and hopefully I'll be able to download it fast, and maybe it won't be too big, although it might be filled with JavaScript and other kinds of dynamic HTML that I can't parse. Kind of don't know what's in there, actually, right? Because they've reformatted the whole web page. I'm thinking, I don't trust this web page. I'm going to print it out.
Also, it's going to take forever.
And it's going to take forever?
Issue that Fairfield.edu is loading slow.
You mean this doesn't work? I can't use
It's a long time to load.
Fairfield.edu from the inside?
You can, but it takes a long time to load it.
It does?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's an issue.
Let's paste. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, this just doesn't work.
Yeah, I get calls about that at work.
So what are we talking about here? I work for a company which is like a giant machine, and I am a mere cog, and my squeaks do not warrant a teaspoon of schmaltz. But I do not have what I would call the collective weight to make a complaint and say, hey, your web page doesn't load. I should tell somebody who works at CNS about this.
They're working on it, but they know that it's happening. They're trying to fix it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm feeling better about working here now. Oh, that was nice and fast. So this is like a first-class horror show nightmare. I'm not using this web page. That's ridiculous. I use my own web page. Oh, look how fast I'm serving a web page out of my closet on a laptop, and it comes up like lightning. Huh? Oh, well, I know, but this is like a closet in my bedroom. Okay, we're switching URLs for the class example here. I'm glad you mentioned this. So let's try this. docjava.com. That works reasonably fast. Run. I got an error? Oh, right. I gotta throw the exception here. Okay, let's run that again. Ah, nice and fast. Oh, and it even prints out the HTML down there at the bottom. Sweet.
Now,
Can I click on this? No, I didn't activate the links. So I gotta make a fancier browser than that. So the HTML editor kit, that sort of worked pretty good, and it gave me all the I printed this, You can't do that in JSoup.
I have a question.
Sure.
For example, your page, .java.com. For instance, let's say I don't want to have the line Java for programmers. But if I try to remove that line, I take the risk to remove Java coursework.
Okay, let me run this again, and you're gonna ask that question again. So you want to take this and you want to remove Java for programmers.
Right. But because I have the problem in homework 4, if I try to remove Java for programmers, I can take the risk to remove Java coursework. Because
You mean
Java,
here?
Yeah.
But Java for programmers is a different string than Java courseware, right? If you're searching for Java for programmers and you want that whole string to be matched, and there's some sort of an href wrappering it, Then,
for example, I was searching for Java.
oh, well, you got to search for the right string, right? No?
Yeah, but I don't know how to eliminate the one that, for example, Java programmers, that string.
Well,
I don't want to have that.
let's look at the Java for programmers as it exists as a reference in my how you say HTML. And what we see when we see Java for programmers is we see an href with a title Java for programmers and then some relative URL relative to the base URL. So it says you go into the book folder and then the CGIJ folder and then the top.htm folder. So I'd have to remove not just the Java for programmers string, but also the href anchor that surrounds it. So the anchor text, that's the text that starts with the tag A and has an href in it. That anchor text has a URL which is completely different from the visual representation of the link. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense? You know, when you have a tag that says A, they call it anchor text, and then when they put in the href in there, that's where you go when somebody clicks on the visual appearance that follows the anchor text. So the visual appearance is Java for programmers, but the place where you go when you click on Java for programmers is this top.htm in the book stroke CGIJ folder.
How can I eliminate this anchor text?
Well, if you want to remove it and replace it with something like Java for morons or something, which might sell better than Java for programmers. You know, those books for idiots, they're sort of copyrighted on the trademark, so I can't write Java for idiots, but I could write Java for morons, and maybe that's a big seller. So instead of having yellow books, we could have a whole line of puke green books, and then we'll have the books for morons, and maybe everyone will want them. So Java for morons might bring you to the same page. So if that's the case, then all you have to do is a string.equals Java for programmers, and when you find it, you could do a string.replace. So if I wanted to replace, let's say, let's for the moment get this string into our program, right? Using get as one big string. Okay. So now I happen to know that in that string S, I can have what are we calling it? Java for programmers. And what I'll do is I'll use string utils, and I'll just say something like replace string. Is there a replace string already in the string method? There might be. S.replace. Yeah, there's a replace, but it uses a char. Can I replace all? Replace first? Actually, replace all might be okay, but replace first. Instance of. Now I can take a regular expression. Perhaps it would be called Java for programmers, but I don't remember if it was lowercase or uppercase, and it is case sensitive. So let's just have a looky-loo. It's lowercase 4, uppercase programmers. So I got to have a lowercase 4, uppercase programmers, and now I can replace it with Java for morons. And now what we'll do, because strings are immutable, is I'll just replace S with S. So I'll go to S, I'll do the change, and then I'll clobber S. It's terribly inefficient, I don't care. And now what happens? Oh look, it's Java for morons. I'd buy that, but I can't because I'm a moron. Sorry. So what do you think of that?
Can I use the same concept to do the midterm?
Well, there's nothing wrong with using replace string. I mean, if that helps you. Sure, why not? It's legitimate Java. It's not particularly efficient Java, but nobody said your midterm has to run fast. And besides, even though it was inefficient, you didn't notice how slow it was. So what difference does it make if it takes an extra half a second, or even an extra 10 seconds? Who cares?
So I have a question about something you did in the Yahoo summary parser.
Okay, let's do that. Yahoo Summary Parser. I think I can run that now. For some reason, things are starting to run properly. Yep, works good.
So you see where you have the private void execute setters method, and that's where you're actually doing all the parsing, or most of it.
Okay, so you're asking about setters.
The execute setters. It's all like the else if statements.
Okay. Generate the dispatch, right? That's where I generated, right, this dispatch. So then I had this large dispatch to execute the setters, and then it says set the peg ratio, and then I got a formatted Yahoo number. I noticed a lot of people had trouble with parsing, and the reason why you have trouble parsing, like if you went and wanted to parse a float, a lot of times what you'd be inclined to do is you might say something like capital F float dot parse float, or parse string, or you might say capital D double dot parse string, or parse double, I think it is. So, but unfortunately, that kind of doesn't work very well if you're dealing with a Yahoo formatted number.
Yeah.
So what I do when I say, here's string utils get Yahoo formatted number, is I'm passing in a string, but then it's doing some fairly ad hoc string replacement junk, so that if it sees a percentage sign, or if it sees a not applicable sign, or if it sees a B for billion, or K for 1,000, or M for million, or whatever else they're using for representing numbers in a Yahoo, dollar signs, for example. These are things that, like, here's NaN or B or K, or if it contains, what we're using for a billion, a B, then he gets index of billion and he makes a substring. It's all very ad hoc.
Okay. So my question is, how are you getting like the last text? How are you targeting the table data with that?
Oh.
Because I have all of them printing except the few that aren't. Like there's one that's table data, but then there's a span tag around the value. So instead of printing out the value like it should when I use the call the set method, it prints out the next table data, which is one of the different like headers for the table.
Yeah, apparently last text is being set whenever it sees the end of the table data tag. So in the HTML editor kit, when you see an end of tag, you can check to see what the last text is, and then proceed to set the last text and interpret that last text semantically to give meaning to the number that follows as the next string. So what happens is you're doing a kind of a look back here. And in fact, what you can see is when you do the parse, you can look at the last text and actually print it. I put in a little debug statement here, which I'm going to uncomment. So when I run my Yahoo summary parser data, it should print, yeah, you see last text, and it keeps looking at last text in order to be able to do things like saying, hey, if the last text is forward annual dividend yield, then we can set it to 2.3%, a Yahoo number. And here, if the last text is short ratio as of whenever, then we can just interpret that as a float. And here, if the share short is of whatever is 26.40 M, that's a Yahoo number. So the M has to be replaced with 10 to the 6 or something or other. Similarly, if it sees a percentage, parsing .04 with a percentage sign is a different thing than float dot parse float normally deals with. That's why you have to make some ad hoc substitutions. Also, they've got things in here with commas, and that can throw you for a loop too. So when you look at what's actually coming in before the parsing, you can see there's a little work that has to be done. If somebody says, "Oh, here's a date, December DEC space 28 comma space 2013 for most recent quarter," that has to be interpreted as a Gregorian date. That has to be parsed. So that's not going to just fall out of the sky for you. You're going to have to do a little work to get that thing. So that's why I had this print statement in here, because handling this in an ad hoc way is not particularly efficient. And therein lies the rub. How would you make this more object-oriented? Well, if you knew about reflection, and if you knew how to map the semantic table data into actual method names in a way that was unique, verifiable, and reliable, then you could use reflection to do the setting without having to do a large ad hoc dispatch. But unfortunately, mapping semantic table names into strings is not something you normally automate. However, I have done the automation on that by automatically generating all of the setters by inspecting the table. So when you look at, for example, where were we? Net.finance. That's not it. Where were we? It was in finance, right? Finance dot stocks dot Yahoo summary parser, I think, right? If you run Yahoo summary parser, right? So this is giving you information from key statistics. If you run Yahoo summary data, that uses reflection to print out the data structure. If you run Yahoo stats, that generates the signatures for all the setters. And it's generating those signatures by looking at the actual stats as they come in. So that is a Java program that writes a Java program by virtue of looking at all of the tags in the table data. Sweet, right? Because once you have those tags and are able to reliably generate the strings that represent the setters for each one of those tags, then when you encounter those tags during the parse, you can use reflection to do the setting, which means you don't need a long dispatch, which is pretty cool, actually. So if you look at how Yahoo Stats works, you see all the setters that were created here? They were all created automatically. There should be like a main method in all of this, right? Isn't there like a main method in this? How does this work without a main method? Yahoo statistics, find, main. It says man. Main. Here's main. Get from web and clean. Yeah, and clean. So what is he doing here? Here I got a I don't know if you've noticed this. There's a table to CSV invocation, which allows you to take an arbitrary URL with with table data and make CSV data out of it. And once you have that, you've got an array of lines with one CSV line per row, and then you can proceed to do the parsing that gives you field names, and with those field names you can proceed to determine what the type is for the field by virtue of what the field contains. So if it contains a B, it should be a float. If it contains an M, it should be a float. It has to be. You have to determine whether you're dealing with floats or integers. That's the tricky bit. It's the typing. If you see years, you've got to be able to make sure that the field is a date. And then with that technique, you can use reflection to proceed to set the Yahoo summary data. I must tell you that this idea that I had for doing it without the dispatch was never carried forward to fruition. I mean, I got it somewhat working, but in the end of the day, it became so mired in special cases that I was unable to make a completely automated mechanism for parsing arbitrary tables. And what I got hung up on was the data types. Because if you don't know what the data type is for the argument, you're sunk. You can't get a strongly typed data structure. And you can't just represent everything as a string. That's no good. So I felt like, as long as I couldn't get strong typing out of the Yahoo summary data, I was going to have to do ad hoc setting. And ad hoc setting meant a large dispatch that says, if it comes in as a this, then do that kind of parse. If it comes as that, then do the other kind of parse.
Can you show us like how you get last text to target those tags, like the specific tags?
Sure. So in Yahoo summary data, what I did was I said if it's peg ratio, then set the peg ratio. If it's forward PE, then set the forward PE. If it's
I mean, like the actual last text, like the string that is last text.
Yeah.
How do you make that pull from only table data, as opposed to pulling from a table like a header or something else?
There's only one place where it gets set, and that is under process table data. That's the only place where last text gets set. So when table data comes in, I guess you could print this, right? You want to print the table data as it comes in? It's the same thing as printing out last text under execute setters. There's no difference now that I see it. Remember when I uncommented this?
Can you do that and go to the part where it says market cap then?
Market cap?
Yeah, because this is what was happening. No, like once you print it, like once you print out just the last text. So what was happening was I set last text to look for market cap, and then I said that if it detects that, it would set the market cap. But instead of the next value for the market cap being the market cap value, like it is in the HTML, it printed out enterprise value. Because and then
I didn't see it print market cap just now under last text. Did you see that? Let me do that again.
I don't know, because when I searched for it, it found it, but then the next one.
Where do you see market cap?
Just in the text, in the last text. You didn't actually you didn't do the dispatch to actually look for it. But
No, I want to print it before I go look for it.
Yeah, so it should be up.
So when I printed it, it didn't appear.
Yeah, but no, you weren't looking at the last text. It should be up. You have to scroll up.
I'm not looking at last text?
No, that's like the answer. That's like now up there. Yeah, one of those. Control F. Try it. Search for it.
Okay.
Yeah, because see here, you see how.
Oh, here it is. Market cap intraday.
Because in the HTML, the value for market cap it's a table data, and then a span tag, and then the value, and that's the only one that's like that.
Yeah, you see what came after market cap here? was enterprise value.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, because what it does is it skips over the value for that because it's in a span tag. In a
Okay,
table
so
tag.
let me get this straight. If I go,
If you look at the HTML,
yeah,
you can
let's
see-
do that. Let's look at the HTML. I want to see where market cap is defined. So I'm going to go to paste and go. Market cap intraday is 447.16B.
But if you look at like the HTML, like the actual HTML of it, that 477 is a table data tag surrounded by a span tag and then the value, and that's the only one that's like that. Which is why I don't know, I couldn't get it.
So here it says 47716B, and he says span. So if you see span, you can do the same thing as what you might have seen if you had looked at table data. Shoot.
Yeah,
Anybody else using span?
that's why I'm trying to, like, I didn't
Stroke
understand how you made it work for the table.
SPAN. Oh. Yeah, here it's used for formatting. It's pretty inconsistent. It's got my name in it. It says Doug. Why does it say Doug? Is that a coincidence?
Probably.
It says hi Doug?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, the line above that says hi.
Oh look, it's got my name.
Try login.
Dave Byline.
Signed in as, it says. Span. Span, wow.
Is there a way to search for a span?
I'm thinking that's like really spooky. Okay, wow. Alright, so if I made span the equivalent of end table data, how badly messed up would everything be? Really bad, right? I'm thinking. I mean, I don't think I can just make that substitution, Kyle. Because I'm thinking this is just going to be totally messed up. I mean, here it says process table data.
Yeah. I mean, all the rest of them are fine. It's just that one that you can't pull because it doesn't.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. Process table data is invoked when the HTML tag TD is invoked. Now, there's another thing that says process span. Now, process span, you know, we could make process span do something. If span starts with YFS184, that must be a variable name, huh? Well, I suppose what we could do is look at what precedes the span, and here's a bunch of information about span. I don't know, you want to print out the span text?
I mean, because we only need that one that comes after.
Yeah.
Is there a way to link it, like?
You can. I can print span text. I mean, let's see what happens. What could possibly go wrong? So this is last text. Maybe I should have done something like quote SPAN colon end quote plus span text. Oh, here it says span text, and now I've got a whole bunch of things about market will close. Here's more stuff. It looks like span text is here. I can print it. Here, look. Here it says span text. If I check it for market cap, I could check last span text.
So you can just search for the specific ID because it only appears next to that value.
Well, why not? I mean, if the last span text is important to you, what you could do is you could say something like last span text equals span text and then make last span text global. So now I can have a private string with the last span text, set it equal to quote null, and now I can look for the last span text in my parse algorithm, and I can say something like where is the market cap? Here. So if the last text is market cap intraday, then the last span text is what I want to use for my parse. How's that for ad hoc?
What'd you do?
Right? I mean, check out the long dispatch where you wanted the last text. Right? Here's the last text. Now you're looking for the market cap, right? So if last text dot contains quote paste market cap intraday end paren, then Yahoo summary data dot set market cap. I don't think I have it here. Market cap. So I've got to create a setter for it. So I'll have to set the market cap, and it's going to be something like I don't know, double. I think I need a parenthesis around this. Double end paren string utils dot get formatted Yahoo number of last span text end paren, right? Because it was in the span text, not in the last text. So I can use the last span text. That's legit. And then I have to create a set market cap, which is something that I can create. Create property or create setter? Let's create the property. And so now it's got the market cap, which needs to be a double, I would guess, or something like that, right? So here's whoops. What happened? Private. Why is it doing this to me? Make it stop. That is weird, man. I type and it goes. It jumps to another thing. Here's the market cap. Oh, it just did it. God, that's weird. I gotta tell you, this IntelliJ is getting too intelligent. So now, what happens if you run that thing?
Wouldn't you need to look for the right span?
No, because I got the last text. And the last span has what I needed, right? Is the market? There it is. There's the market cap. Right there. I did it. I did it. And that's how you do that.
Okay, so we go back to where you set the span text.
Yeah, sure. I don't know what I just did. This says Yahoo summary data. Wasn't I in the parser?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Somebody said set market cap, right? So I invoked the set market cap setter in the data structure. So I'll just find the usages of set market cap. That's only happening in one place. And I go over here, and what do I see? I see this giant, big, humongous dispatch that says, if last text contains the market cap intradata thing, then do the set market cap thing. And the set market cap thing said, gee, I happen to know, because Kyle told me, that the data is not contained inside of table data. Instead, it's contained inside of the span tag. So I went to the last span text, which is over here, and that's where the data is at. And so then I said, well, that's I don't know, a Yahoo number. So I parsed the Yahoo number and then did the setter. Now you might say to me, but Professor Lyon, this doesn't feel very object-oriented, because you got this giant humongous dispatch and you got to maintain it, and it's hard to maintain, and it's not object-oriented, and it's ugly. It puts the ugg in ugly, in fact. And I say, yes, you're right. This is not the nice way to do it. Nice way to do it would be to do something clever with reflection, but it works. So this is how I have elected to achieve my parsing. Now you could say, but Professor Lyon, why aren't you using JSoup? Say, because I really don't know JSoup, and Confucius makes the loudest argument. If I knew JSoup, I'd probably use JSoup. So you guys teach me. You tell me. If JSoup is better, and you can do this with JSoup, please use JSoup. And if regular expressions are better, and you want to do it with regular expressions, I'm all over that. I'd love to see what you guys come up with regular expressions. So, yeah, I have this approach, and maybe it's not the best, and you guys will tell me why and show me a better way to do it. I'm psyched. You teach me. Yes, sir. You don't have to do it my way. You really don't. Any way that works for you is good for me. Yes, sir.
I have a question. When you run
Somebody said they were going to do it in Ruby. Who said that? Wait, was Brian here? Yeah, Brian. Where's Brian? Where's Mr. Ruby? He's left the building. Elvis has left. Mr. Ruby isn't even showing up for class. Okay. Brian, where are you? We're looking for you. Okay. Yes.
now, when you run the Yahoo summary parser, we get, like, for example, the first line is Peggy 1.73.
Wait a minute. The Yahoo summary parser first line.
Yes.
Where are you at here?
And when you run it,
What am I looking at?
well, that's the first line before the whole.
I put in a bunch of print statements. Can we get rid of the print statements now? There was something in here about system.out.println. I'm going to get rid of that one. And there was something in here about process table data. Here it is, process table data. And I'm going to look at this. I'm going to get rid of this one. So now I'm going to run it again. Yahoo summary parser, right?
Okay, the first line was Peggy 0.52.
Yeah, that's a derivative computation of the price-earnings ratio divided by the growth plus yield.
Okay, because I thought with this code I can see at least some of the URL, correct?
Yeah, but you gotta realize that what you're printing is printed by reflection. So when you go into the Yahoo summary data and you search for Peggy, there's a getter here, but it's a derivative computation.
Okay.
You see, what he did was he went and said, okay, figure out the forward PE ratio, get the growth, get the yield, and then compute the Peggy ratio. And that's supposed to be a valuation that you can use to determine whether or not you'd like to invest, but it has nothing to do with what's in the URL. There's no corresponding HTML that tells me the PEGI. There is one for PE and there is one for growth, but there's none for PEGI. So when I print using reflection, it goes and invokes all the getters, and then prints out the getter name, and then it prints out the value. And if the value is not actually a property but a computed value, it does the computation, and it's all done as part of the reflection. I mean, I could do another getter in here, right? I could say something like this: public void get my hero, right? And then return. Oh, we've got to return something, right? Here's a string, and now when we get my hero, it'll return the string, and it's Mickey Mouse, right? Now that's not a proper property inside of the string, but when I go to print inside of the data structure, but when I go to print using reflection, the data structure, we can see my hero Mickey Mouse appears because reflection has discovered it. Reflection finds all the getters. So if I remove this, it doesn't break anything. It just removes the property from being printed because of reflection. You see.
Can I go back to the example with the hero of Mickey Mouse?
Sure. We'll put Mickey Mouse back in.
Yeah. And looking the URL, then we said, for example, the value for the trailing number, we're going to say divided by the price on sales in the URL.
What does this have to do with Mickey Mouse?
No, I'm just trying to.
I put Mickey Mouse as my hero in the code, and then you started asking me a question about trailing values, and I thought, well,
yeah, because
you really lost me, dude.
I took the picture. How can if I get all the data, I can play with the data and get something else.
Oh, yeah, sure. So let's assume that somebody wants to get a double, and the double is equal to, anything you like, math.pi, for example. So now when you go to get my hero is pi, and it just so happens it's 314 today, right? So in theory, here's my hero and 314, right? Today's pi day. Just wait till next year. It's 3.1416, right? Next year it'll be 31416 because it's like March 14th, which makes it sounds like pi. Never mind.
Can you go over how to convert strings to Gregorian dates?
Sorry.
Oh, was he in the middle?
No. So
I thought you were done.
No, I guess we are.
No,
Is there? Are you finished with your question?
No, I'm still not.
Can I
No, help it.
Can I help you a little more? I don't know if I helped you just now.
Because my question looks in the key statistics. For example, if I want to say I want to get the PE ratio divided by the price sales, and I want to get that result in one of my outputs.
All right. So here's the PE ratio.
Yeah. Let's say I want the PE ratio
Yeah.
divided by the price that sells. So
Divided by the
yeah.
divided by price/sales.
Yes.
Price. Okay. So if I have price divided by earnings, and I divide that by price divided by sales, the prices will cancel, and I'll have earnings. I'll have sales over earnings, right?
Okay.
Is that not right? I mean, let me just sort of write that out so we can see it. I'll bring up a Word document just to sort of give you a little scratch pad here. So what you'd like to do is you'd like to take the PE ratio. Let's put it in parentheses. P divided by E And now you want to divide that by the price divided by sales.
Yes.
And so then what that's going to be is equal to the sales divided by the earnings.
Correct.
And that's what you want?
Yes.
Okay. So if you want the sales earnings ratio, what you would want to do is you'd want to say public double get sales earnings ratio. And now what we're going to do is we're going to return get PE price earnings ratio. How about the forward price earnings ratio divided by get sales. Oh, yeah, here it is. Sales earnings. It says ration. That's too bad. So now I got it, right? In theory, if I run the Yahoo summary parser, is it in here? Sales. I wanted the sales. Where is it? Sales earnings ratio. Run. Get. It should say sales earnings ratio, right? I'm not seeing it. Well, for some reason my reflection isn't working, or maybe I'm doing something stupid, but what could I have done wrong here? What if I returned a number like 100? Would that have worked? Get sales earning ratio. Sales earnings ratio 100. Okay, that worked. Run it again. You know, I have a feeling that it came out as 0 and therefore didn't print. Like it was not a number or something. Because I'm not seeing it here at all. When it returns 100, it prints. But when I do the computation, it doesn't. So my feeling on that is it's probably trying to divide 0 by 0 or something. Because the PE ratio is probably 0. I'm guessing. Are you sure it's a well-conditioned number? Might not be. I think the Peggy printed. Didn't it get Peggy? Actually, you know what? I don't even see the Peggy. You know why? Because everything is 0. You must be dividing through by 0 when doing this. Because I don't see the Peggy. But if I go to the Yahoo summary parser, I got the Peggy. But this ratio you're trying to compute, it ain't coming out. So I can only assume that there's something terribly ill-conditioned about it. What if you multiplied the two numbers together? That might be a little safer. What is the sales earnings ratio anyways? Oh, you know what? I don't think it's ever been set. I don't see sales earnings ratio mentioned here, Alfredo. That has to be set first before you can start using it. Right? Oh, look at this. It's recursive. The sales earnings ratio is invoking sales earnings ratio for some reason. Right? That can't work. It even says method sales earnings ratio recurses infinitely and can only end by throwing an exception. I think that's not a good thing to do to your recursion. If this is the last thing to be invoked, it just stops the whole program. How are we supposed to compute this? It's forward you know, if I don't know how to compute it, I'm not entitled to put this in here. So I have to delete it. Until we know how to compute it, we have to delete it. Sorry about that. I mean, I don't know how to compute it, but by putting in a recursive expression like that, it's no wonder he didn't get even more cranky. He should have crashed the whole virtual machine. Kyle, you had a question?
I was gonna ask if you can go over how to set like dates from strings, but
You want to ask a question? Please do.
I was gonna ask if you could go over
If you want to do dates,
like from strings.
sure. There's a Yahoo summary parser here, and are there any dates being set? And if there aren't, how would we set them? I don't see any dates being set, so we better go and look at the code, the actual HTML, and see where the dates are at. There's got to be some dates in here somewheres, right? Where are they? Oh, here they are. Fiscal year ends. That's like a date, right? Fiscal year ends. And then here's another one. Most recent quarter. So, if we encounter most recent quarter, what we'll do is let's take the text and print it out. And just write MRQ colon end quote plus and put in the text. So we'll start by printing the text when we encounter the most recent quarter. And certainly we were able to find it. How's that?
Yeah. I understand that one.
So then your next question is, okay, how do I get a date out of it, right? So string utils dot get Yahoo formatted or Yahoo date maybe? Now, there's got to be a way to get a Yahoo date. Or is it a standard date? Maybe I could do it with date utils. There it is. Get Yahoo date, and we'll put in the text. And now that's supposed to return something of a date, right? So let's see if that works. So Alt Enter, and that should be a util date. And now what we'll do is we'll print out the date, sout Control J D, and see what happens here. So we'll run it again. I'm doing it in steps so you can see my process. And so now if there's a problem where this is not parsable, then there must be something about this date. So let's see what it is. I want to be able to parse this. So now you can break it down to just one thing. How do I parse a string that looks like that and turn it into a date? So let's see how the Yahoo date works. Oh, okay. So this is assuming you're in a format that says DDD, or date, month, year. But maybe there's a different kind of Yahoo date. Here's a statistics date, which is of that format, and that's the format I'm looking at. So I was using what's called a statistics date. A statistics date is in a different format or pattern. And so because I'm in Yahoo Statistics, they use statistics formats for the dates. Does that make sense? So now I have to be careful that I'm using the correct helper function for doing the parsing. I mean, that's just one of those things. It's one of those you got to be careful things. I assumed it was a Yahoo date, but it wasn't. It was a Yahoo Statistics date because it's coming from key statistics. So now when I do the parsing and get the date, maybe I have a chance of actually parsing it properly, and sure enough, it doesn't throw an exception. And when it parses it, it gives me a correct interpretation of the date. And it even says, hey, that was a Saturday. So now that I know that it was the most recent quarter, and I have a legitimate reference data type for my setter, I can go to the Yahoo summary data and set the most recent quarter to this date. Now, you've got a problem, right? Because the most recent quarter has not been established in the Yahoo summary data structure. So now you've got to go and create the property for that. And now I think maybe you're ready for this. And most recent quarter has been set. How's that grab you?
Okay. Now how can we modify formats so that we can?
Well, you don't have to modify the format if you're able to parse it, right?
But like, for example, I looked through your date utils and I didn't see one that just has the month and day.
Okay, so now you're dealing with some other date. Like, for example, here's one called fiscal year ends. So now in fiscal year ends, let's copy that and sort of search for the text and say, look, if the last text contains, quote, fiscal year ends, end quote, end paren, sem, and then we can do something like S out, Control J, enter, and print the last text for the fiscal year. So I'll write, quote, fiscal year ends, end quote, end plus text, and now I've got this thing that I'd like to look at and make sure I've identified properly. So I go through my process, right? I see my fiscal year ends, it's been properly identified. And your problem is it's not in the same format as what you'd like. And I'm claiming, well, I could probably assume that it's this year and just add it in. Right? I could get this year. Will it always be the case that it's this year? I was thinking what would happen if I just said plus, quote, comma, 2014. Oh, you need this in quotes. Comma. I mean, that's so hacky. 2013. So that puts it in the right format just by virtue of modifying it.
So is that what you did with your get? This is the Yahoo Statistics date FY.
What do you mean?
Like it's a different method. Is that what you did? Should I be using that one? You just append the year to it?
Well, I don't know what the year should be. How can I know? Well, I could get this year. Can I parse it using Yahoo Statistics without a proper year? I don't think so. Yahoo Statistics assumes it's in a specific format. Whoops. Right? It assumes it's in this format. Is it possible to parse a date without the year? Here's one. Here's a statistics date using fiscal year. And you know what he does? Check it out. He gets the year, and then he adds the year. Okay. Life in the big city. So if you want to do it that way, is that too hacky? I don't know. Does that sort of? I assume that we have to. Well, you have to make some assumptions about what year this is coming from. So if you do that, you call fiscal year get Yahoo Statistics date. Put in the text. I guess that's going to be under date utils. You can kind of see this is not my first day at the dance, right? Date D equals, and now sort of just print it out and see what happens. I don't know. What could possibly go wrong? Throws an exception at runtime, and that's it. Right? So let's print out the FYE. Quote FYE colon end quote plus. Put in the day, and here's the Yahoo Statistics date for that fiscal year. And what does that buy you? Headaches or workingness? Spandex or booga booga? Choose. Hey, look. It says September 28th. It's the wrong date. How could this possibly have happened? Wait, it is September 28th. The fiscal year ends September 28th, 2014. September 28th, as the crow flies, is ahead of our present day, right? So one would make the... I don't know. When you read this, do you assume that it has ended or that it will end? When I read it, it says fiscal year ends September 28th. That's something for me to look forward to from now. So September 28th, 2014 is exactly when the fiscal year ends. So that's good. That is correct. So now I got to go to Yahoo Summary Data. Yahoo Summary Data and set... What are we calling this now? The fiscal year ends on D and paren sem. Did I spell that right? Now I have to create the property. Enter, enter. It does it for me. I hit run, and I should have a fiscal year ends. And here it is. September 28, 2014, Sunday. So the fiscal year will end on a Sunday.
Go back to you're in the dispatch.
I'm in the dispatch now. You could, I think, look at it again and say, Gee, Professor Lyon, that's so ugly. On the other hand, I'm not crazy about the alternatives of running through all, the the reflection, because consider, how would reflection know exactly how to parse something that doesn't have a year? How would reflection know how to insert the correct year when all it sees is September 28th? How would it know if it's this year or last year? Reflection can't know that. Only a human who has some domain knowledge about fiscal years would know that. So if Yahoo is presenting you with data and it says, hey, parse this sucker, September 28th, right? Is that 2013? Is it 2014? Is it, the future, the past? I don't know. Reflection can't help me. So I have to be relatively ad hoc in my interpretation of that date. I have to have, I don't have to be a financial expert, but I have to have some domain knowledge to know what year that is, right? So there's no good way to automate that I know of, right? Because interpreting that date, if I just said fiscal year ends and I just left September 28th without a year, that would not give me a properly formatted date, a Java util date reference data type, because Java util dates have years. So I've got to put a year in there. I'm thinking.
How could you get rid of the time?
Java util dates have time as well.
But we don't know what that is. And this just gives us like a...
Yeah, I mean that's a big problem. I can't. I'd have to create my own version of a date class, and I don't feel like dealing with that. Yes, sir.
So is this data only present for this fiscal year? Or can you get previous fiscal years?
Okay, so Brian says, how do I get historic key statistics?
If not,
Not from here.
okay. In this case, then we could,
I mean, what you're basically saying is, suppose I want to know the market cap for Apple in years gone by. I can get you historic prices. I might even be able to get you historic numbers of shares outstanding, in which case I could back out the market cap. But it's not like anyone is falling out of the sky and giving me this data. I'd have to back it out from more data mining. This Yahoo Key Statistics is current statistics. It's not giving me historic statistics.
So can't we just make the date, just take the date when we read, strip all the data? Say that's the time, so that's the year. Fair assumption?
What's the assumption now?
So there's an issue of knowing the year, right?
Well, it says the fiscal year ends September 28th. Well, that's this year.
Yeah. So when we take that data, add a year to our Java util output.
Well, what I did, for right or wrong, is I used my own little fiscal year date parser, which essentially said we'll get the year for this year, and we'll add it to the date string so that I can proceed to parse it. So I made an assumption that it had to be this year, and so I made a special parser just for the fiscal year in the Yahoo date statistics. Now you could say, oh, but that's so ad hoc. Yeah, okay. But one had to be relatively ad hoc to interpret fiscal year in this way. What else could I have done? So, yeah, data mining has a lot of ad hoc stuff to it, you know? And JSoup ain't going to help you with that one. Neither, dare I say, will Ruby. It's not going to help you at all. Because if you don't know when the fiscal year ends, and it's like ending this year, Ruby's not going to tell you. Neither, for that matter, will Rails or whatever the heck they're using. Rails or Grails or Perl or Snowball or I don't know. Tough problems. So when you're seeing things like, you know, B or percentage or NA, interpreting it as a number is not particularly straightforward. You have to be a reasonably smart. You need programmers for this, not reflection. Did I answer your question? Any other questions on this midterm? Rich, I can't see you back there. What you doing?
I shook my head.
Oh, okay. You're not like playing Netscape or something, are you?
No.
Okay. I don't know what's going on over here. You know, Netscape. Don't they still have Netscape? What is that? Really?
The browser?
Yeah, it's a browser. It was the progenitor of the web. You know, the web is just a graphic user interface on the internet.
I've heard about that guy.
Clark,
Yeah.
Bark, and Mark.
Jim Clark, right?
Jim Clark, Mark Andreessen, and no, it was Jim Barksdale, Mark Andreessen, and also Jim Clark. Andreessen, he worked at the University of Chicago, Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, I guess. Maybe it's the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. And then he was doing the web. And then Barksdale started McCaw Cellular, which was acquired by AT&T and then spun off as AT&T Wireless Enterprise Tracking stock. Jim Clark started Silicon Graphics, which was based in the building where Google is now. I visited that building. It's a purple building and it's built on a slant. It looks like you're walking downhill when it's really level. And people there travel around on this very large building on their Segways. That's where Sergey and his buddy Sergey Brin, and who's the other Google guy? Can't remember. Harry? Harry, Larry, and Moe?
Yeah.
Really? So that's where they have their offices. And by the way, they're messy. Messy offices. Behind glass walls. So you can see how messy they are. Yes, sir.
Do you adhere to any specific Java style guide?
Yes. Yes, I do. In fact, I have a thing in my book about style.
Oh.
I think, isn't it one of the appendices?
I'll look there.
Yeah, there's a coding style guideline.
Oh.
So, yes, I use style. In fact, I am not that far away from the style that's enforced by IntelliJ. I like to put in things like JavaDoc when I have the time. If you put in a Control Q, it'll actually format the JavaDoc and give you some nice HTML output. So you can see the API has been documented somewhat. Here's another one, the Yahoo Statistics Date. Control Q, you can see, because I use the standard JavaDoc, things like parameters get highlighted, the returns get highlighted. Date utils, you can click on it. You know, it doesn't say much, but it's live.
How is that stored?
it's stored right here, geographically co-located to the next to the actual method. So when you get a Yahoo date, you type Control Q, and it shows you it formats the JavaDoc live. So, for example, here it says the date string is in the format, let's say 14 MAR 14. So now when you go to the Yahoo date and type Control Q, you can see that the format is shown. But then it doesn't show you quickly what the year is because 14, right, in the year. So maybe you need to change that. Maybe it should be format, it should be this way, DD stroke, or maybe it's lowercase, DD stroke MMM stroke YY. So then if you do it that way, it's very clear what the format is for the parameter.
So is that unique to IntelliJ, or do you think that that is universal?
JavaDoc has been a standard part of Java since JDK 1.0, 1994. So JavaDoc is standardized. Plus, the output does not have to be HTML. You can have the output be MIF or RTF or PDF. So the JavaDoc compiler will output anything you like. There are a series of converters available so that JavaDoc will work for you. So here's how it works in IntelliJ. If you say /** and hit Enter, it automatically defines all of the tags, the JavaDoc tags. So then if you want to say, well, here's the format for the date string, formatted as, and then paste, then when you go over in here and type in Control Q, it comes back so that you can see it. In fact, you don't need the dash because it puts it in there. So it returns a Java util date. And can throw a parse exception at runtime. And you could even put in a description. Date parser, and there it is, date parser. You could probably put in an author as well. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff you can put in. I don't see author, oddly enough. So, there you have it. Any other questions about the midterm? How about JSoup? You still want to use JSoup? No?
Probably.
Yes? You're going to use JSoup? Good for you. And Brian, what will you be using?
I'm going to use JavaScript.
JavaScript. Excellent.
I'm going to use Ruby on the front end instead.
Okay.
Ruby on the front end.
Well, I think that Alfredo here said something like, I want some more examples using JSoup. Right? You said. Do you have any examples using JSoup? So then I found the JSoup cookbook, which, you know, looks free and everything. And they show us some nice examples in here. And here's one it says here it will parse an HTML document, and you just call parse, and it works. So I suppose the thing to do would be to try it, and maybe even, I don't know, make up a little set of examples that use JSoup. So here's some book examples, and I don't remember what chapter number was XML, but I think it was chapter 33. Isn't that right? So I'll make a new package, and I'll call it 33. Oh, chapter 33 JSoup. So I'll put JSoup in the XML chapter. I guess that's okay to do. And then what we'll do is we'll make a new class, and we'll call it the parse example. Okay. And now what I can do here, I think, is make a main method and Alt Enter. And what could possibly go wrong? Yeah, it parsed the HTML. I don't know what you can do with this doc, however. Get all elements. And then if you get all the elements, what does that grab you? Print utils dot print Alt Enter, and what could this possibly do? Huh! So here's all the elements. So it put all the elements into a it says first parse. Parsed into HTML. So there should be like a title that says first parse. Oh, and there is. And there it is. So, how's that? Good, right? JSoup. Knowing nothing at all about it, I won't let that stop me. Now there's this also thing, another thing here. It says get element by ID. So apparently I can go in and get the title. So let's go in here and get the title, and we'll look for Alt Enter, because title is one of the elements, and that's the content. And now S out, Control J, Enter, title, colon, end quote, plus content. So, I don't know what I'm doing. It says title is null. So I'm not sure if that's the right way to do this. Maybe there's something about the ID that I'm not quite understanding. Oh, get content by tag. Okay, let's try that. In fact, let's just copy this and see what happens. Copy. And I don't think I have any tags. Paste. I don't have any A tags. But maybe I could find elements that have to do with title. Alt Enter. And then for element in, this says links, but it's not links, right? It's going to be title. And we can make this title element. And then, why don't we just print it? S out, Control J, Enter, element. I just want to see what it says. Did this do anything? Oh, look, it's giving me an exception. Well, this shows you what happens when you don't know how to do it. I'm not sure where the error is at. See, it's giving me a null pointer exception right here under parse example. Get elements by tag title. So what happens if you just get the content and print it? Print utils dot print content. What's that do for me? I really don't know, as you can see, I really don't know JSoup. It seems like there should be some way to get all of the elements. Get all elements. So there's the content, get all elements, and then print. I'm guessing. Yeah, this is not how you do JSoup. Sorry. I really don't know JSoup. You guys know JSoup any better than this? Yes, sir? What's the answer here? There is no answer. See, this is why I don't teach JSoup. Yeah, I mean, this sort of looks like it should work, right? But did I do something sort of wacky and stupid here? I don't know. What happens if I just take this code and paste it in here and try and run it? Does that do anything at all? No. Oh, well, their code example is broken. That's not my fault. Unless they're relying upon some sort of an href in here. href equals www.docjava.com nparen hello world and a, and now let's see if it works. Maybe he needs an href. He needs anchor text. Nope. That's just not working. His example is busted. So I'm not liking this cookbook. Unless it has to do with these parameters in here, which I don't know about. I don't think so. These look like regular expressions in here. He's doing queries on the document after it's been parsed. I'm willing to try this one example here and give him the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not convinced it'll work. Oh, it kind of did work. So if you are selecting links, maybe you can print the links. Print utils dot print links. See if that works any better for you. Ah, it worked. So it printed the links using a regular expression to do a search. That's pretty slick, actually. So once the doc is internalized using the JSoup parse, you can do regular expression select, and then you can proceed to get all the elements that match the regular expression. frankly, I don't see how that's going to help you with the corner points in parsing the key statistics off of the Yahoo data. Things like knowing that the fiscal year is supposed to terminate in 2014, this ain't going to help you with that. Moreover, when you go to use regular expressions to parse every single individual table data item, and then all the items that follow, whether or not they are followed by table data or a span, I don't think this is going to help you with that either. So you're going to end up having to formulate regular expressions for every single thing you want to parse, and then you're going to have to parse it. So at the end of the day, you're going to be faced with a different set of problems than the HTML editor kit. It's not necessarily going to help you at all, in my view. But be that as it may, it is a different API, and that kind of makes it attractive. Plus, there are some interesting examples using it, so that's also kind of a plus. I think it's very popular, too, so that's even better. I hate to be all by myself with HTML editor kit and nobody to talk to. So having a popular API is great. On the other hand, how many hands are there? On the other hand, if you do a WorldCat search in the library for JSoup, you don't find any books. That's a bummer. Whereas if you look for HTML editor kit, it's all over the place in the swing literature. So there's an awful lot out there in terms of what's been printed already. HTML editor kit has got a lot of legacy to it. Yes, Brian?
What was the name of that language that you said that a lot of financial firms like Sandy were starting to use?
Base protocol.
No. John Crowley mentioned it to me. And I researched it and I read books about it and promptly forgot.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you said
I'll ask him.
Okay, I remember you said there's a chance it could replace Java.
Well, that's what he seemed to think, but I guess there's a new language in town, and some people are interested in it, and I became interested in it as a result of the recommendation that I got from my buddy, Dr. John Crowley, who works over at J.P. Morgan, and he said, it's all the rage over here, and you should learn it. And I said, well, okay, and so I read the books about it and said, this is not my cup of tea. So
You saw the syntax,
I saw the syntax, I didn't see the advantage. I failed to appreciate the new language. But then again, I didn't get iPods either. So, and I still don't do Facebook, and I don't understand how to tweet. So I'm kind of, don't go by me. I'm like a dinosaur.
Even my grandma knows.
Maybe we should take a break. Is it break time?
Yeah.
Okay.